All right, all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm about to say national anthem. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll start off with Sebastian Wiesa. You here? Nope. All right. Do we have anyone from PTA or SEPTA? All right, 0 for 2. Quick change. We're going to go right into the student recognition, and then we'll come back to public comment. So, Mr. Haddam, you want to take it from here? No.
Paul, don't turn off just yet. When he gets in 5 minutes, and then you can turn his mic off. And
He's on time. It's 6:59.
Oh, okay.
Sebastian, yeah, you were early. It's 6:59. No, it's actually just 7 o'clock
Great
right
timing.
now.
Right on
You're
time.
right on time.
You're right on time.
So, Sebastian, we're going to have you go up first.
You were
Thank
early.
you.
For a change.
Not let Mr. Haddam get ahead of you.
Good evening. Sorry about that, everyone. Hello. Good evening.
Sebastian, will you do me a favor? Why don't you come here and use my mic, and we'll just switch it out real quick. There we go. Thanks, Sebastian.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sebastian Wiesa. I'm the student body president at Somers High School, and I'm here to give a report on the high school. Today, we're going to switch up the format a little bit and talk about specific things at the high school that apply to the school district's goals. So to start with 21st century knowledge and skills, in student life, the Somers High School hosted WESF, our science and engineering fair, on March 16th, which was a huge success. We also hosted the awards ceremony where I think it was 75% of the Somers science research participants won awards. So huge congrats to all of them. We also, early in March, we had our peer leadership retreat. So all of our new incoming peer leadership students went on the retreat. And upcoming on April 8th, the eclipse is passing through New York. So we have a group of students going to visit that upstate. For the arts, we are hosting our Festival of Arts on April 25th at the high school. For social, emotional, and physical wellness in counseling, as final college admissions decisions begin to come in, we wish our seniors the best of luck. This year, the counseling office has processed 3,032 application documents for the class of 2024. Experience tells us that once the dust settles, everyone will have good options ahead of them. Also, last week, students completed the Co-Vitality Social Emotional Wellness Survey. As a follow-up, this week counselors, school social workers, and school psychologists are checking in with students who may benefit from some extra support. By the end of the week, individual reports highlighting students' strengths and possible areas for growth will be posted to Infinite Campus Backpack. For global citizenship in the arts, the Addams Family will be shown on April 12th to 14th, with a senior citizens luncheon on Sunday, April 14th, with free tickets to the show. So we're very excited for our show, and that's coming up. So it's going to be an amazing show. I hope you guys can come check it out. For athletics, spring sports are in full swing. And also, on Tuesday, March 19th, the Somers High School hosted the 3rd annual Section 1 Flag Football Jamboree in partnership with the New York Giants. Thank you to head flag football coach Katie DiCiaro, her staff, and team for making it a special day. After the event, over 20 teams from Section 1 attended a wonderful presentation by the New York Giants Women in Football Career Panel. Also, in Student Council this week, we were running a fundraiser at the high school, which is a Make-A-Wish fundraiser where students can pay $2 to submit a wish, and they can wish for anything they want in the school. The most popular wish has been like a food delivery to class, and we've been following through. We set aside money in the student council to make sure students get what they would like, and all the proceeds we make from this fundraiser will be donated to Make-A-Wish. And lastly, just a little IB update. Students are completing their CAS projects, which are their community service projects. And once those projects entail anything to benefit the school community, as well as personal interest projects. So we have people writing and putting on musicals, as well as people cleaning up courtyards at the school. So those are some amazing projects that some IB students are doing. Thank you for having me, and that's just a little update on the high school.
All right. Thank you, Sebastian, for that. Rewinding again, we'll see anybody from PTA. All right, Mr. Adam, it's all yours.
Test. Okay. I was going to say thank you, Dr. B, but after your opening remarks, I'm going to rescind those as well. I shut my mic off on me early. So. Thank you. Thank you to our board. Thank you, Dr. B. We've spent some time together the past week, and it's always about athletics all the time. And without you and your leadership, a lot of this would not be possible. So thank you for everything and all you've invested into Somers Athletics, again, on a great winter season. I just came off the flag football field, so I'm freezing. So excuse me if I'm a little shivery. It's not nerves, I promise. I'm lucky enough to be up here every year because of the wonderful coaches and wonderful student athletes that we have in this room, and I'd like to honor them. Before we do that, we have a bunch of Scholar Athlete Awards, team awards to give out. Not a lot of coaches were here tonight, but I do want to honor them. Scholar Athlete Team Award goes to those teams that have 75% of the students within 90 or above average. Our cheer team, our boys swim team, our ice hockey team, our ski team. I know Mr. Barkard is there, so thank you, Josh. When you only have a team of 4 and 75%, I'm assuming you're one of them, but it's an assumption. Our gymnastic team, our bowling team, second year for our bowling team. By the way, we doubled our numbers. We doubled our scores almost, so it's something that, again, is on the rise here, and I'm hoping that you guys see some bowlers in front of you in the near future. Our boys basketball team, our girls basketball team, and I believe I got a cheer team. So those are the teams not here. Congratulations to those teams. There are a couple teams here, and I'd like to give them 2 awards at the same time. So the first team I'd like to call up, and tonight I've been instructed, students, please stand to the left of me so we could get you on camera and you could wave hello to mom, dad, or whoever else. All of our members of our girls indoor track and field team, can you come on up quick? Come on up. So I'm going to hand to Julia and Haley. This is your Scholar Team Athlete Award. And we always have a joke, and I kind of always forget. And if I was doing my job right, I would be more thorough and make sure I have the number. But it's kind of become a fun joke with the coaches. I think, where's Coach Veg? 27 years in a row are we at? 25 years in a row, girls track and field league champs, which is, I mean, an incredible accomplishment. Coach Veg, along Coach Lack, I always say you guys set the standard for what a coach should be. So it's appreciated. Your hard work doesn't go unnoticed, and your kids are certainly lucky to have you as a coach. So thank you for everything, and thank you for your 25th consecutive league championship. I'll hand that off to you young ladies, and we'll have you back up here soon. Thank you. And if I can have the members of our boys winter track and field team up here as well. So I believe, Coach Lacko, are we like 22 out of 25, 23 out of 25? 24 out of 25, even better. So, yeah, and I come up here, I talk about track all the time, but, you know, it's to see it's a whole other thing, right? And they're out there, and you know it's not uncommon to see Coach Lacko playing football with his kids before practice and cleaning up a bunch of stuff after practice and doing everything in between and running with his kids. And you know, I talk about Coach Veg and Coach Lacko. They're not just the boys and girls coach, right? They're the program coach, and they do it all. And these young men, it's not just about let me come out for an hour. I saw Aiden. I got a workout in the other night about 5 o'clock, and I saw Aiden in the weight room, right? And it's just not about going out and honing your craft on the field. It's about doing it in the weight room and everything in between. And for what you guys do, it's with a top track program in Section 1, and much to your guys' hard work and effort. So congratulations on another great year. Sit down, and then I'll call a couple of you up individually. So we have one more league championship to honor, and this one's a really cool one. I'm going to ask every wrestler that's here, our captain, just come on up. Our captains, you guys can start walking up. Dalton Beloy, Justin Danian, Robert Vrabel. Robert in the blue shirt here. I don't know if you guys know, our wrestling team is merged, and we merged with North Salem. And Robert is a North Salem wrestler, North Salem student. So it was really nice of him to join. And as an AD, I don't see Robert during the day, but I see him, you know, after school and at wrestling. And he certainly carries forward what we want to be here, a great student athlete. So we appreciate you making the road trip here, Robert. The board might reimburse you for gas money. I would ask them after. But you know, wrestling to me is funny. I was a basketball coach my whole life, and basketball's when wrestling goes on, right? So I didn't really know wrestling. I didn't know what it's about. And wrestling, we think of two individuals on a mat competing, but wrestling is much more than that, right? Wrestling is the countless hours watching the diet, which is wild. It's a mental sport, and you know, our wrestling program is up to 40 plus student athletes now, and it's growing. And not only is it on the high school level, every night when I leave in the winter season, you have those little rugrats running around the commons, our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And I know you guys help out a lot with that. So really, really fun group to watch. A bunch of respectful young men. And this league championship that they won this year is their first since 2011. So first in 13 years, and really, really appreciated. And before I give this to them, I do want to say one other thing that it goes to show you everything you need to know about our head wrestling coach, Coach Ron DeSanto. Ron runs one of the biggest wrestling tournaments in Section 1. He does so much, and I recently found out, and Ron didn't tell me this, and it's the character that kind of flows through his team, is that he won a big Coach of the Year award, but knowing Ron, he didn't tell me about it. I had to find out secondhand. So, and when I told him tonight, he gave me that look like he didn't want to know. So now I need to embarrass Ron on a Coach of the Year, much well-deserved, and in a really competitive league that we were in to bring home a league championship says a lot. So thank you to Coach DeSanto and his wonderful group for us. Sure, your mom will text me soon, Ron, to say, go get him. Really lucky. I just, again, seeing what our coaches do and what these student athletes do, it's an amazing thing. It is, and it's just not sports. So really appreciate everybody. Had a couple great individual accomplishments. I was lucky enough to go to Staten Island this year for the state championships in track to see our kids. The commute was terrible. I think I got a parking ticket by the New York City parking and everything getting down to the city. But when you got there, it's the best athletes, best track athletes in New York State. and it is madness. But in that madness, you look around and you realize that you're with the best of the best. And we had a lot of representation there, and a lot of our kids showed out and had a great day. And I want to go ahead and honor those. The first young man I'd like to honor for being a state qualifier and went to track in the 300 meters. Really fun to watch. You don't realize how fast kids are moving until you're up close. So state qualifier, 300 meter, Andrew Fasone. Congratulations, Andrew. Next, when I went to Staten Island that day, I know Arjun was a little under the weather, right? And I think I even asked you after your race, are you feeling all right? And no complaints, right? And I don't think you practiced for 3 days before, and you went out there and you ran a heck of a 600-meter race. And congratulations. And in that, I think your character really shined through, right? There was no excuses. You did your best, and isn't that a life lesson, Arjun? So congratulations on being a state qualifier, and thank you for all you've done for winter track. Thank you. Our 400 meter, one of the coolest things in high school sports is watching a good fast relay. Just so many little components that puts it together. I'm going to honor 5 young men, even though it's a 4x4, all that kind of race and was part of it. Sometimes with relays are interchangeable as the year goes on. So I'd like to call up Sam Parsons, Arjun Oja, Aiden Meza, Andrew Fasone, and Michael McGuire. If I really had foresight, I'd have them bring their baton and maybe do some of that to lighten up the meeting. But congratulations, gentlemen. Congratulations. We are now moving on to the girls that participated at the state meet. This one I'm going to get right. It might confuse you. It confused me a little bit. So I'll just try to tell you about Julia and the race she ran. They picked out 4 kids from Section 1, 70-ish high schools to run against other sections in a 1,500 meter relay race. Julia was one of them, and I've known Julia. Where are you? Come on up here for a second. I'd like to embarrass you too while we're at it here. Julia, I've known since SIS, and down at SIS, we did a lot of 3rd, 4th, 5th grade fitness, right? And I'll never forget Julia. She used to run circles around the gym all the time. And when she came up as a 9th grade, I remember I saw Coach Veg. I said, "Coach, is Julia running?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Just watch." And Julia's turned into one of the best runners in the section, in the county, et cetera. And she got picked to run in this race. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay because of my aforementioned 2-hour commute back home from Staten Island, but they did come in 3rd place at that meet. And Julia's another young lady that we'll be seeing up here plenty in the near future. So congratulations on a great race, Julia. Can I ask Haley Donovan to come up? Haley is one of the best sprinters in our area. Haley is also a very humble young lady, so she probably doesn't want to hear me talk about her at depth, but she's going to be probably running somewhere when she gets out of Somers High School in the college level. I know she was lucky enough to the Bahamas trip. When was that? That was 2 weeks ago. She went down to the Bahamas. Just saying, Dr. B, maybe we could in Bahamas to run in a big race down there. The best thing about Haley outside of racing is every time you see her in the halls, it's just a smile and hello, Mr. Haddam, and she's such a wonderful young lady, and she absolutely kills it, no matter what she does on that track. And I love watching, my times that I'm up on the track when Haley's practicing. I mean, you talk about that game face, and sometimes I'm having a conversation and something just flashes by you, like, oh, there goes Haley again. She came in fourth in the whole state in the 300 meter, and it's not for a lack of work effort. She absolutely kills it on that track, and we're really proud of you, and even more so proud of the young lady you are, and represent Somers High School to be. So congratulations to Haley. All right, a few more. Can I have Ethan Stuber up here? Ethan will be up here again a lot in the near future, and he might also be up here for track and field come the springtime. Ethan had an unbelievable year on the wrestling mat. You know, wrestling is such a physical sport. It's easy to lose your emotions or to get carried away. Ethan is always here. Right, Ethan is always here, and Ethan, whenever I talk about you to your phys ed teachers or teachers, they just, great kid always pops up, right? And you have such a great way about you, a very respectful young man. Made a state meet this year, and it's going to continue for Ethan, and just a young man that just works so hard at his craft, and a pleasure to have part of our athletic program. So congratulations to Ethan Stuber for being a qualifier in the wrestling state championships this year. Ryan Ball. So I've officially signed Ryan up for a 25-year contract to be security at Somers High School at the end of his wrestling career. Ryan's one of the best wrestlers in the state, and he's been at it since 7th grade, and top 12 finish again. You know, Ryan is just so focused. I've gotten to the point in my career where what goes on in front of me sometimes doesn't matter. It's what goes on as wrestlers, as athletes prepare for competition. And watching Ryan prepare for a competition, focused, you know, almost studied and knows exactly what he's going to go do, and he does it out there. Another young man that just is, and I said top 12 finish. I think top 12 finish as well last year, right? And you still have a couple more years left, which is wild. Ryan will be there. He'll be on the podium, and it's going to happen sooner than later. And it's something that Ryan works at 12 months a year. And when we talk about the sport of wrestling, it's watching your diet, it's long hours in a gym, it's, you know, and Ryan embodies all that. And you know, another thing about Ryan I'll say is not the wrestling, but when Ryan wins a match, that electricity that goes through a gym, because his teammates just respect the living daylights out of him, and that's warranted. So thank you for your hard work, dedication to our program, and look forward to honoring you the next couple of years over and over. Thank you, Ryan. It's amazing how well these guys clean up too, I'm telling you. Usually I don't get that close to a wrestler during wrestling season, but congratulations to all of you. So this last one's really, it's super cool. So our ski team, we're merged with North Salem and John Jay. And it's one of those sports that the athletes, like Josh would come on up here, Josh. I'll talk. So Josh Barkart. So Josh would come down to the office a couple times a week, and Josh, we have to do A, B, and C. We got to get on this bus at this time, and you got to talk to your parents. And Josh got it, right? Our coaches, I don't see the coaches much. They're not our coaches. And we have 4 athletes that are merged as part of that merger. And I've gotten to know Josh, probably not as well as I want to, just because it's hectic in the athletic office. But every time I call him down, he's there. Just had him, can I get a pass to go back to class? Of course, let's go. And he takes care of, he's like our coach in Somers. And they went up and they raced in the state championship meet this year, and they came in 3rd place overall, bronze medal in the state, right? So Josh had an amazing year, and that was great. And as I was talking to Coach Clea, we're talking about it, and he goes, here's the best part. He goes, Josh was also given, or voted, excuse me, and deservedly so, the NISFA Sportsmanship Award by his peers. So not only was he a 3rd place finisher in the state, not only is he an unofficial member, a non-paid member of the coaching staff, which we appreciate, Josh, he, I think, being honored by your peers right? Is whether we're adults in high school, wherever it is one of the most awesome things you can receive. So congratulations on a great finish, and congratulations on the recognition by your peers, Josh. Before I go, I promised Coach I would just read this. This was from Coach. Josh Burkhardt is an incredible young man who lets his actions speak louder than his words. A strong work ethic coupled with an innate desire to always learn and improve has resulted in an illustrious ski racing career while at Somers High School. He is the first athlete in Somers history to compete at the NISFA Ski Championships, which took place last month at Whiteface Mountain. While in Lake Placid, Josh was voted by his fellow teammates and peers to receive the Section 1 Sportsmanship Award, a well-deserving accolade. I'm very proud of Josh, and it signifies just the kind of gentleman Josh Burkhardt is. Congratulations, Josh, and that was from Coach Calais. So congratulations again. I appreciate having us here, and everybody have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. We're going to go ahead and just take a quick break so the board can say hi to everybody. So just give a few minutes. Thanks, Paul.
All right, now we open up to public comment for agenda items. Anybody for public comment for agenda items? All right, moving on. Go to the central office report, the PYP Primary Years Program feasibility study.
So we'll go ahead, and Ms. Turner will walk to the podium here and look at the PYP feasibility study kind of update. Thank you, Ms. Elkana. And then we'll go ahead, and Chris will be doing the slides here for you, hopefully shortly. So thank you, Liz, very much for a couple things. One, for initiating this conversation and for getting so many individuals involved in this work of looking at the possibilities and really just exploring and learning more about it, and then coming back this evening. So thank you.
So thank you. So tonight we want to share the work of our K-5 team and everyone who participated in our feasibility team this winter and spring. This team came together to begin exploration around the International Baccalaureate Primary Years Program, which is the learning framework for professional learning and teaching and student learning at the K-5 level. This was a first step, a little toe in to the water to learn about the framework and what it can mean for professional learning and for student learning. But to kick things off tonight, I actually want to start at the ending and where we landed at this point and some of the considerations of the team. So we'll talk about that first, and then I will take you through our process. So our feasibility team consisted of 31 participants. It was a great group. It was a combination of elementary teachers across grades and departments. There was elementary administrators, parents, Board of Education members, and the team was formed through interest surveys. And the commitment was a team orientation meeting, 2 off-site school visits, and a debrief meeting. And I'm very grateful to this team who committed their time, and they shared their thoughts openly throughout our time together. So from this experience, there were some initial takeaways. There were many strengths observed when implementing that PYP framework in the schools that we visited, which I will share the team's feedback on tonight, including some of the natural tie-ins, which was nice to the science of reading professional learning that we've been heavily involved in, as both kind of recognize that need for students to build knowledge, build language, hands-on experience, and those cross-content learning experiences. What was also evident through this process is that more exploration time is needed. This experience, like I said, it gave us an instep and some general knowledge, and it also generated some new questions and some new wonderings of our team. As with any new learning, we know the importance of balancing initiatives with our teachers, our faculty, our support staff when it comes to professional learning. And we know that going forward to next year, the focus of our professional learning will continue to be literacy. And we're also beginning professional learning on looking at our math practices with our regional consultant from B.O.E. So we know these are our priorities. A simple piece we can look at building levels is that learner learner profile, and those traits. There's many similarities to those to our existing K-5 Colored in Character months and the language that we use with children month to month when we celebrate with our colored t-shirts. And those attributes are woven into students' monthly learning. So in short, there's much more to learn. Was a big takeaway of this process. But now let me take you through the steps of the journey and some insights from the feasibility team. So during the team orientation meeting, we met and we reviewed the goals of the study team, which were really around gaining insight on approaches that districts had taken in implementing the primary years program and some of the effects it may have had on teaching and learning and across all types of learning settings and classroom settings. The team observed, they asked questions, and they noted both similarities and differences among our Somers Elementary classrooms and those of the PYP classrooms during our visits. And when we gathered to debrief and kind of summarize what was observed, we discussed possible benefits, and we also discussed what those must-haves would be in order to consider any next steps. I do want to note, we have great things happening in our elementary schools and in our elementary classrooms and with our teaching staff. So what was noted as strengths and what we observed was not to say it's not things that are not happening in our elementary classrooms, but rather this was a chance to say, we have great things going on. Is this a possibility to look at to take our students' experience to a next level or a stronger level? So that's the mindset we went in with this. So those were our goals of our study, and our two sites we went to were Greenburgh Central School District and East Hartford Public Schools, and we're thankful to those two districts for being kind enough to host us. They had established IB programs, both over 12 years, and similar to Somers, they have different school buildings for different grade level bands like we do for the elementary schools. Differences that we had, that there were fewer homerooms per grade level, some had smaller class size. Both also had a greater percentage of students receiving free or reduced lunch. And as with any district, they're facing their own sets of challenges post-COVID. They're in the process also of studying science of reading. They've adapted curriculum to support students' needs over time, and they are always looking to advance and do even better each year for their students. So some similarities and differences there. But they opened their classrooms to us, and their leadership teams held discussion sessions to allow us to ask questions and learn from their experiences. So, as I mentioned, from these visits, our team noted collectively those similarities and differences among Somers classrooms to PYP classrooms. And some of the overarching similarities were that we all have students engaged during learning. We're using some of the same foundational program materials such as Hegarty, Foundations. We're all working to balance that explicit versus inquiry-based instruction for young learners that's also based on the standards and meeting the state standards. We all offered a continuum of services and a wide range of classroom environments to support students' needs. Within the classrooms, we all had one-to-one device programs for students, interactive displays, charts, visuals. We show evidence and celebration of student learning throughout the building. Students were working in collaborative groups. In some of the spaces in the PYP classrooms, there was tables used instead of desks, which was interesting to see. We also noted that we all have heavily invested teacher and parent partnerships, and we all want what's best for our children. And we know the importance of having those strong school and home connections, and also to teach children the opportunities for community give back. Some of the differences, though, in the PYP classrooms, and that were interesting to note, was their consistent and common learning language that they used across all their classrooms, through their unit topics, their essential questions, the learner profile traits. These are all posted and referenced throughout the classrooms. There was cross-content connections in lessons that were very clear, and there was a high occurrence of student-driven learning and student collaboration, discussion, and their experience culminates with a 5th grade capstone project, which is completed before the students head off to their middle schools. And out of those observations, there were elements that this team considered to be strengths in what we saw. And as they observed and asked questions, that's when our team also started to form those additional wonderings, or those things that they had questions about, and hence the need, like I said earlier, for further exploration. The strengths seen, definitely the team saw that there was clear alignment across grades and departments and specials, up through grades and departments and across. They had structured interdisciplinary and cross-content connections. There was strength in the students' accountable talk and their conversations with each other. The presentation skills of students sharing for their peers seemed to be strong at a young age. They weren't afraid to try new things. Both the students and teachers were regularly reflecting also on their learning and their progression through the year. The team felt another strength was the daily integration of those learner profile traits across the classrooms, and it was just an additional element of consistency across their settings. The team inquired about professional learning, and this also ended up being a kind of a note of strength, as the professional learning is provided K through 12, it's ongoing, and it encourages practices that support student engagement. And lastly, the strength was the investment and the partnership of the students, staff, families together in supporting the learning that was happening in their classrooms, because we know that school-home partnership is important for any of our programs to be fully successful. So the team also posed those questions to explore further the wonderings. For instance, when deciding to implement PYP, what's the best inroad? What are the costs associated for startup? And what are costs associated for that ongoing implementation? And what is it that makes that professional learning different than other forms? How are the learning units developed? And do they meet the needs of diverse learning environments? And along the lines of our science of reading, an important question also came up. How is the ratio of explicit versus inquiry-based learning determined in subjects? And it's interesting, one can't necessarily draw a through line, right, from PYP framework to direct impact on ELA and math proficiency. You really can't do that with much, because there's always multiple factors at hand when you're looking at impact. But with this in mind, what are districts' reasons for either pursuing this type of work or deciding to move back or abandon this type of work? That's an important question. And for us, what is our clear why if we move forward? And should this be the path for that, or is there another path option? So all very good questions that were shared by our group. We then discussed some possibilities. And what could this path mean for our K-5 learners? Very similar to the strengths I mentioned earlier. Some possibilities could be that consistent K-12 professional learning for all grades and departments. There's the K-12 social-emotional language component, creating that consistency, and the executive functioning reinforcement for students through the use of the learner profile traits and those learner attributes. Consistency in approaches in language and learning for our families, especially if our families have kids in more than one school building. Opportunities to strengthen our student collaboration, to strengthen their presentation skills, their passion to explore, as well as supporting their metacognition, the way that they understand their own learning. And finally, that opportunity to create even more guaranteed experiences for students to have awareness of our own Somers community here, and ways to support that community, as well as communities beyond Somers. So finally, kind of round things back out to where we started. The team, as you heard, definitely recognized the importance of that balance of initiatives in our school, which is why our priority focus on professional learning for next year will continue to be in literacy, and beginning that work with our math consultant as well. For this framework to work, there would need to be a clear tie-in, of course, to the district success plan in doing that planning, with long-term steps laid out through small goals and small steps. And the journey would need to be clear to all of our stakeholders, and offer up some lesson samples, have the cost for startup, the cost for the continued implementation. It's important to understand overall also what might or might not apply when it comes to the curriculum that we have. There would need to be that continued guaranteed collaborative planning time, inclusive of all grades and departments together, and understanding how the framework supports all learners, inclusive of our students with learning plans, E&L supports, or related services. It would be good to see or speak with more schools, we thought. Which schools are moving in this direction? Are there schools that perhaps are moving away from this direction for some reason? It would be important to partner and continue to learn with other districts, to be critical friends of each other. There is growing interest in this framework in our region, so much so that our regional B.O.E, Putnam Northern Westchester, is in the works of creating a regional professional learning circle for this framework and is sponsoring professional learning for it, which is interesting. So it would be interesting to see who else is moving in this direction. So once again, I want to thank all the members, some are here tonight, who contributed their time to this work. Some interesting elements that rose up, and definitely some points for further exploration. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Liz.
Any questions or?
Anything? I know we had a couple of board members that were on the committee. Anything that you wanted to share about the experience or anything we should know?
I enjoyed it. I think it was really great to see the other schools and how they operated. I think the East Hartford visit was almost a little better for us to see because it aligned more with how our school districts, our buildings are. I took pictures of stuff too, if you guys want me to share it with the board. But it was just really great to see how it doesn't change any of our curriculum that you guys are already teaching. Everyone's doing a lot of great work. But it was great to see how engaged the students were and how it was very student focused on the student for learning. They were just all so, like, to see these like fifth graders get up and do this PowerPoint presentation, most of them having just learned English like the month before, to be honest. It was just so impressive to see how it all went. So I think it's a good through line to go from PYP to MYP. Again, it's not the same as taking an IB class, it's different. So it's not a matter of choosing or not choosing, it's a matter of a framework. So I like the consistency idea, and the learner attributes are I think everyone agreed that they really like those, especially because you could see it already at the middle school and high school level in Somers now of how much you learn about yourself as a learner with the attributes that are above us on the wall. So.
Was anybody else on that?
Yeah, I was there. I think Ms. Turner did a good job putting this together, and a lot of things to consider and think out. And but you hit it pretty well on the head with that.
Now, for teacher training, what would that entail to get them up to speed? Like, how long does that take for?
That's something we definitely need to learn more about, part of our considerations. There are different ways in which there's some things that are off-site, there's sometimes you can bring people on-site. There's, now that it's growing a bit in our region, there is a little more opportunity to bring people on-site. And because we also do have some of our colleagues trained through the framework, there's opportunities for that collaboration there with people that are right here in part of our district.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we leverage a lot of how the MYP process went now? Because the high school's in the middle of it, about to be accredited for 9 and 10, and then the middle school is already accredited. How that training and professional training went for them,
Certainly, yeah, we can definitely learn from them what was beneficial, not beneficial, or lessons that they learned through the process, and that could help inform, and if there's planning for professional learning for our elementary schools. Yeah.
So what are the next steps to figure that out? You've got a lot of the questions,
all
the
these
things you saw.
considerations.
Yeah, I know. But how do you
That's really what it is, right?
go about in getting those?
Getting the answers to all the
Yeah,
questions.
so it could be a couple of things. I mean, like I said, I was so thankful of everyone that was able to contribute their time. I think that was really key and is something that could continue, is to have a think tank together, to ask the important questions, to debate things, to make you think of things you might not have thought of before. So I think looking forward to next year, It's still having people take those considerations and the wonderings that rose up from this experience and continue that. So if it's those meeting times together, perhaps visiting some other places. We chose to visit sites in this experience that were established for some time. But there are other places that are in process of becoming accredited. It would be interesting to hear their insight, a little different perspective of living it and going through it and what they're learning from it and the reasons why they're pushing forward. So some more work and exploration, I think, to be done in a similar format.
And I think one of the big takeaways too was that it was going to be a multi-year process. Like regardless, I mean, middle school was a multi-year process. So would this be, and that was one of the things that the PYP coordinator at East Hartford, for instance, was like, everyone wants it done yesterday. Everyone's a perfectionist, but you want to set those small goals and set yourself up to accomplish it over time, because it's not going to be done in a day. It would be too much work. But definitely a multi-year process. It wouldn't be something that happens like tomorrow. And honestly, the shift for the kids, I don't think would be so drastic, to be like noticeably as far as.
I think another thing we should look at is when we're looking at these schools that have this program, how well their proficiency levels are, you know, in the reading and the math areas. So whatever other schools we may go to in the future, take a look at all those proficiency levels and how they're doing with this particular program in their school. I think that would be a good idea.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
All right, and then, Chris, we'll go ahead and switch that over to the budget summary piece that we have here and bringing our non-instructional and instruction together to kind of wind that in. Thank you, Chris.
Just trying to bring it up here.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay. So tonight, we're just going to go through the budget development process. We have the proposed 24-25 budget. We have a tax levy and tax rate analysis, state aid projections, FTE, full-time equivalent headcount changes over the past decade or so, salaries and benefits changes, and then some special education costs, and then finally the 24-25 contingent budget. So again, this is just the annual budget cycle that we've been going through this year. We've talked about this at each of the presentations that we've had. We've currently just in the budget presentation review and coordinate moment in this cycle, sorry. So again, we had the instructional budget last time, we had the non-instructional budget back in January, and now this presentation is just kind of summarizing that. Again, it's gonna then, in April, we'd be looking to have the board adopt the budget, and that all leading to a budget and trustee vote on May 21st. Just a annual reminder that we have here that when building the budget, it must be balanced, so revenues must equal expenses. And we just list some of the larger revenues, your property taxes, state aid, sales tax, and then some of your larger expenditures. You have salary and benefits, transportation, and debt service. All right, now the new slides for this presentation. So currently, the proposed 24-25 budget is $110,810,731. It is about a $4.5 million increase over the current year's budget, or 4.31%. The next column, the next row there, use of fund balance and reserves, which we've talked about at that last presentation. It's kind of used as that shock absorber for annually to help kind of limit changes to programs from year to year. So last presentation, we had a slide that then showed we've been up to, upwards of $2 million. We've been as low as $25,000 and everywhere in between. And currently for the 24-25 budget, we're proposing just shy of $1.7 million for that. The next big ticket item is the revenue non-property taxes. So that number is going up about $936,000. A large portion of that $936,000 is an increase to our interest revenue. We've been conservative over the last year as rates continually increased, and now rates have remained steady for a little bit of time here. So we bumped that up quite a bit. So out of that 936,000, it's about 750,000 of that is just from the interest revenue that we'll earn throughout the year. And then the tax levy number is going to be going up just shy of $2.4 million from last year, and that's a 2.76% change from the current year's tax levy. That is at the maximum tax levy limit. That requires a simple majority. If we were to go over that limit, then it would require a supermajority, which is 60% of the voters to approve. And then underneath that, you have the estimated tax rate going up. You see going to $187.62, which is just shy of a $7 increase, which equates to a 3.84% change. Again, and the tax rate is not set until August, when all the numbers are finalized with the town. So this is just an estimate at this time, but it is usually fairly close to that number when the final number comes in. We do go into a little bit more detail on the tax levy and tax rate analysis on this next slide. We show kind of a 5-year look back, where for the tax levy, just this past year it was 2.8%, and next year again we're looking at a 2.76%. That's on the tax levy number. And then you see the tax rate number that's fluctuated over the last 5 years, focusing on 22-23 school year. That tax rate number went up because of the it's formerly the Pepsi property settlement. That was a tax certiorari that happened for that year. So when that happens, the overall assessments went down for the town, so the tax rate for everybody then increases. So the pie that we're looking to collect is not increasing by any more than in that year it was 2%, that tax levy number. It's just how we collect that money gets redistributed when property like Pepsi, that assessment went down, so now it gets redistributed to the rest of the community. So that's why that tax rate went.
So basically, the money that Pepsi's not paying gets distributed amongst all of us as taxpayers
To
in the school
make up
district.
that difference, yep. And now, looking at 24-25 for next year, you see the tax rate going up about 3.84%, largely due to the IBM property reduction in assessment. So that's a tax cert that's been sitting out there for quite a few years, and the assessment has been reduced to try to kind of limit the effect going forward. But for this current school year now, that does have an impact because the overall assessments are going to be lower, again, so that gets redistributed amongst the rest of the community.
And all those settlements, that's done by the town?
It's done by the town. Town, knowing that some of these tax certiorari's are millions of dollars for the school district, they keep us abreast of all the information. They partner very well with us and keep us informed along the way, just to because they don't want any surprises for us, because they know that it is quite often a multi-million-dollar settlement that the district ends up having to pay, especially in the case of the Pepsi property just a couple of years ago.
But that's not settled yet.
Pepsi it's the IBM. Yeah, the IBM one is still not settled. And then on the bottom here, we have estimated impact on the 24-25 school taxes. This is just for an average home assessed at $70,000. Monthly increase would be about $40, and so it equates to an annual increase of about $486. And then the condo assessed at $23,000, monthly increase of just over $13, and so an annual increase of just shy of $160 for the year.
Chris, I like the way you put, last year, 23, 24, 24, 25, right next to each other. If you look at the tax levy, pretty darn close to 2.8% exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look at the tax rate, it's pretty darn close to double.
Yeah.
And the double is becoming, because of the loss assessed valuation, again, if you look down at the bottom, that monthly increase, that was not the monthly increase last year.
Right.
It's about double
Mm-hmm.
of what it was this year. So I appreciate you laying that out pretty straightforward, so thank you.
Yep.
So the increase of 486, obviously every 70,000, it goes another 486, another 486.
Yep.
right?
So it's per $1,000. So if you take, if you look up on the assessor's roll what your home assessed value is, based on the taxable, if you have a star rebate, it would be different. But you take that $70,000 divided by 1,000, so it would be 70 times, and then you would do it by the tax rate increase, which would be $6.94, and that would give you your
Increase.
for that taxes for that year.
Yeah.
And so to be clear, and that increase is not because of an increase in our school budget or spending, it's simply because of the reassessment.
So the tax levy.
It's because of the tax rate.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
tax levy is going up next year.
Right.
But the big change is the assessments that are coming down, so that's what's
Right.
driving up the tax rate.
Yeah, so, yeah. Because the tax rate increase is higher than the
Yeah.
tax levy, yeah.
And that's set in August by the town.
Yeah, and like I said, it's usually very close. It's just some, minor changes to some assessments, but for the most part, it's pretty close to where it's going to be.
Okay.
And on this next slide, we have state aid projection. So again, this is based on the governor's proposal for this year that came out in January. So last year, just to go back a little bit, last year, the state did not adopt their budget until sometime in May. So obviously that was after the board adopted the budget in April here, and it was like maybe the week of the budget vote. So we did not go back and change any numbers as far as what we were budgeting for state aid. So last year we used whatever the state aid runs came out in the governor's proposal. So from budget to budget, it looks like our foundation aid is going down about $130,000 from last year. If you looked at the state aid runs that show what the state-approved budget from last year was to what the budget from the governor is now this year, looks like we increased about $20,000. But again, we didn't have those numbers last year from the state-adopted budget because it came so late, because it came in May. And there's no indication that we're going to have a state-adopted budget by April 1st this year as well. Because again, there was, we showed the video last presentation about some of the changes that are in the governor's proposal as far as removing the save harmless and then adjusting the foundation aid formula as far as the inflation rate's concerned. So that's what's impacting a lot of districts. We're not impacted as much as some others. Some others have some multi-million-dollar swings here. But still, just from a budget-to-budget standpoint, we're looking at $130,000 reduction in foundation aid. The next line, you see BOCES going up almost $200,000. That is, as we continue to partner with BOCES and we continue to try to move any kind of services or software or anything that we purchase, if we can get it through BOCES and we can get aid on it, we're going to do that. So we continue to move stuff over there. Again, so just looking ahead, say at the 25-26 budget, we expect that number to jump up dramatically as we talked about us moving EduTech, our technology group there, over to BOCES now. So that number we do expect to jump up considerably for 25-26.
But that was a net save from another area.
Yeah, so we had the slide that showed over the next 3 or 4 years, it's a pretty substantial net savings for the district. Transportation you see going down almost $200,000, largely due to the reduced number of routes that we've had, mostly due to enrollment, not having as many kids that we're transporting. So that's, again, overall, budget to budget, our state aid, it's like a $20,000 reduction overall. So this next slide, I know it's not the easiest to read up there. This is showing the FTE headcount for the past decade or so. On the left side in red, you have the reduction in staff, the biggest one being general education teachers. Almost 17 teachers over the last decade have been reduced, again, largely due to a decrease in enrollment that we've had over the years. We've also had 3 instructional support specialists reduced, and then 4 non-instructional support. And then on the right side, we have increases. So as enrollment continue to decline, the scope of services that the district is providing to students continues to increase. So we have an additional E&L teacher. We have additional special education teachers and special ed supports, teacher aides, teaching assistants that we're required to provide in some of these situations. We also have increased AIS support for students, and then a couple of increased 2 additional wellness supports for students throughout the district. So overall, over the last decade or so, that green bar is showing a reduction of about 7 staff members overall.
So this slide's in direct response to questions that come up as far as, hey, we've had declining enrollment over the last couple of years, right, and what's been done.
Yep.
Right, and this shows that just through attrition, like I said, roughly 17 teachers and all, 17 teachers from non-instructional has gone down, right, and been replaced with necessary stuff. And we're going to show on the next slide what that means in budget-wise, right, because obviously the support staff is a completely different average cost or so
Right.
than it would be a general ed teacher on that.
Yep.
But overall, in that last decade, due to declining, it's been 7 people head count
Yep.
reduction.
And then, as Nick said, this slide is just trying to put a dollar amount to those people. These are estimated amounts. Didn't go back to 2016 and say, yep, this teacher was making X and benefits were this, and that's what we're going to know. So it's just kind of estimates, an average number for current values. So again, same principle. So the reduction in staff were savings for the district, but then the increase in staff in red were additional costs that the district absorbed over the last decade. Again, that green bar is still showing about a $1.3 million decrease for us. Again, so over that last decade, like Nick said, we've lost staff due to attrition, enrollment dropped, but then our scope of services continues to increase with the additional wellness support and academic intervention support, E&L support, and special ed support.
And Chris, this is a direct reflection of when we had the last presentation, when we heard the speaker on the film there spoke about from a statewide level. Frankly, as we know, a significant majority of schools are actually declining in enrollment, hence the left side, and then he described very well the scope of the work has increased. So district is not different really
No,
than
not at
other
all.
districts across the state. And so when you look at that in particular with our district, where we're getting, just a little bit over 10% funded from the state, it's coming more from the local dollar versus if you're flipped the other way and you're an 80-20 split the other way from the state, it may not sting as much because you're not getting as much from the local part. So, but with our organization and many of our sister school districts around us, very, very similar pieces as we continue to see the changes that are needed to support the children. So again, I appreciate the visual here. So thank you.
And now this next slide and the one after is about salary and benefits changes over the last 8 years. So
Red looks bad, Chris.
red is bad. Red is benefits
Yeah.
percentage change over the last 8 years, especially the last 3 years, as we've talked in these last few budget presentations. Health insurance specifically are continuing to increase at a rate that is not good for anybody. So
Chris, in that green there, the team, administrative team, or everybody's done just, I think, a great job of over the last 8 years balancing that. Salary increases at 2%, so we've been able to, again, our faculty and staff have been wonderful letting us know when they anticipate that they may make some changes and maybe retire and things like that. It's given us a chance to keep this balance. The red part is, like you said, nothing we can really change over. And again, I like this is great. I like the red decline there because that was a unique year.
yeah, back in 1920, large portion of that was due to the decrease in retirement contributions, the percentage decrease. So that helped tremendously in that year. That was the only year that it really
I don't know if it really offset the
Yeah.
23-24 year. I think
Didn't
was the
offset
problem.
Yeah, so you can see when you're capped at a certain amount, you can raise your budget, and your salaries are kind of staying commensurate with that. But you have these expenses that we have to pay. We have no control over.
Yeah, we don't set
Yeah.
the benefit rates, and so it's a challenge.
And what affects those are, like, the health benefits are just the inflation in the cost of healthcare.
Yep.
And then as far as the contributions for the retirement systems, a lot of that is just affected on market factors.
Yes.
Correct, and what the projection is for the performance of the money that's set aside for those plans.
Yep, and especially with the employee retirement system and the teacher's retirement system, the employee's retirement system runs on the state year, so it's April 1st to March 31st, and one of the years that's really impacting that right now is the COVID year, where the stock market kind of tanked after March 13th. Where it didn't have much time to rebound, where it did help a little bit with TRS because it did start to come back a little bit. So they do, for whatever reason, ERS always seems to have a little bit bigger swings than TRS, which at least in our mind, we'd love for them to neither have big swings one way or the other. But with TRS, with more salaries associated with TRS, we really don't like those big swings because they have a huge impact on the budget. ERS, it's not as bad, but it's still not something that we love to see. So this year, I think I talked about it at the last presentation, is the first year I think I can remember since the tax cap was instituted that ERS has gone up over 2%, and that's 2 percentage points, because it really went up, say, 15%. But with that over 2%, it was like 2.1%. That can then be used. Anything over 2% is an exclusion in the tax cap calculation. You know, it's very small this year because it's just a 0.1% over, but it's just, again, something that we haven't seen in it may have happened one other time when the tax cap first got instituted, but I haven't seen it in quite some time.
So you're able to exclude the 0.1%?
Yeah, it's very, very minimal. I think it was like $8,000 or something like that.
The gas tonight for that young man.
Yeah.
Now, the medical increases, we can't really shop that around. It is what it is, right? You can't, we're stuck into one program.
Yeah, so we do have the collectively bargained agreements that we have with the unions. Again, our teachers belong to the night shift plan, and then our other staff all belong to the P&W Health Benefits Consortium. There's not a lot of options that we have there. We can certainly discuss it as we move forward, because again, if these last 3 years, if this continues, it's not good for anybody. Just, it's not sustainable.
Thank you, Chris.
And then the next slide here is just kind of showing the same thing, just in terms of dollars. So we're just looking over all the way to the right, that 8-year average. We had salaries at about 2%, and then benefits was just over 4%. But you see, as far as dollars are concerned, it's just about the same. We always say salaries and benefits make up roughly 75% of our budget. So salaries are about 50%, and then the benefits are about 25%. So it does kind of equate that it's just double. Salaries are double the benefits there. So just dollar for dollar, even though benefits is half the budget, it's still equating to about the same dollar increases that we're seeing even for salaries.
Yeah, I think you have on the upcoming slide. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but it's employee benefits would be $27,746,742. So
Yep.
it's not a small amount.
Nope. So we'll just jump right into that. We'll start with the anticipated expenditures on the right side there. You see instruction and special education make up about 50% of the budget. And then there, like as Amanda said, the employee benefits is that big blue piece of the pie, representing about 25%. And then on the left side there, you have anticipated revenue. You see the property taxes, it represents about 80%, state aid almost 14%, and then you have county sales tax, and then some interest income and other revenue making up the rest of it. That appropriated fund balance number that we shared before, that's almost that $1.7 million. That, again, we'll finalize that before the budget adoption at the next presentation. It just, with the ERS reserve, we usually split it up between the two. I just haven't finalized that number yet. So the whole number is looking to be around that $1.7 million. It just might be split between the ERS reserve and appropriated fund balance. That's all.
And just to be clear for everyone, the appropriated fund balance is not money we plan on spending. It's just there to balance the budget and absorb any of these swings that we've been seeing.
Yep. And we did talk last time, or maybe the time before, about Yes, that number is up to almost $1.7 million, but we do know that for this upcoming budget, we are, with the costs of, say, EduTech going over to BOCES, we know that's an increased cost for this upcoming school year, but in the next couple of years, we'll make that back and then some in net savings for the district with the aid that we'll be receiving on it.
Because I think, like you said, that's about a $600,000 less there the following year.
Yep.
And then also here, this is that spot, if we happen to get better news from the state, with the finalized budget, we will just reduce our reliance. Let's say it's $250,000 we get from unanticipated state revenues, then we'll just reduce our reliance there.
Yep.
So, yeah, thank you.
And then with that special education piece here, about 15%, we did just try to pull out that specifically. You see the large piece of the pie, 63% is dedicated to salaries. Again, this specific chart does not include any benefits or anything like that. This is just straight salaries for that particular chart. And then the other two big pieces of the pie here, you have out-of-district tuition, about 15%, and then BOCES, about 16% of that. So again, that out-of-district tuition is for students that go to other schools and outside of Somers, where it's a special education placement, where we don't have a program that is the right fit for that student.
And Chris, that was on the last budget presentation when we went through the different departments, right?
Yep.
So that 2.4 million would be listed in that with those schools of what kids are affected.
Yep.
And then the salaries, you say, that would be any teacher that has a special education designation on their, I don't know, resume, I don't know how we classify them.
That they're in that position.
In
yeah.
that position
Yep.
for the school district, and
And
it includes also the special ed office
Yep.
that sits down the hall over here.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Special ed office, and then as well as teaching assistants, teacher aides, anyone, that's the bulk of it, anyone that we charge off to that special education code. And then here we just have, if the budget is not approved by the voters in May, then we have three different options. We can resubmit the same budget for another vote in June. We can revise the budget and then submit a revised budget in June. Or we can go straight to a contingent budget, which would then be no tax levy increase from the prior year. And no additional vote is needed if we decided to do that. What that would mean would be we could not raise the tax levy at all from the prior year, so we'd have to make an additional almost $2.4 million in reductions to the budget to make us work with the contingent budget. And then here we just listed a few of the potential impacts that if we did go to a contingent budget, what that would look like. There could be some transportation reductions for late buses and after-school activities, field trips. There'd be, and again, so we're trying to make up $2.4 million. It's hard to do that with just some small cuts, unfortunately. So a lot of it is going to come in the area of staffing, because that's where the dollars are with salaries and benefits. So there'd be additional instructional reductions. We'd be looking at athletic coaching position reductions. As part of contingent budget, no new equipment orders, again, unless it's a health and safety concern. No planned renovation projects by our buildings and grounds staff, again, unless it's a safety concern. And then we'd also have limited use of school buildings by community groups. And that kind of wraps it up. So the next presentation will be on April 16th. Again, it's going to be fairly similar to what we just had, as it's still just a summary. There might be a few minor tweaks here or there. And then that's where we'd look to have the board adopt the budget on April 16th. Then there'll be a public hearing on May 7th, and then the budget vote and trustee election on May 21st.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question, Chris.
Sure.
On slide 6. Maybe you explained this and I just didn't hear you. $70,000 average home. Where do we get the $70,000 from? Why do we use that number instead of the average median price in Somers?
It's just a number that I've gotten usually from the assessor that they just typically use as the average value.
Because
Yes.
when
The
your
assessed
your
value,
taxes
not the-
are
Not
not
the value of
The
the
assessed
house,
value.
the assessed
Yeah.
value.
the
like
assessed
the
value.
tax
Your
bill.
your home is not assessed at 100%. It's an assessed value. So you could go onto the Town of Somers website right now, go to the assessor's department and pull up the assessment roll and pull up a random, like I've just done. And you can pull up like a random person's assessment value and then do what I said. Take that assessed value, multiply it by, divide it by 1,000 and then multiply it by the $6.94. And it'll give you roughly how much more you'd be paying in taxes per year with the current budget.
We can use, for the slides, I can use any number. It's just the number that we've typically used that, when talking with the town, it's the number that they usually use when they just use when they give us like an average of
Okay.
the assessed values.
So that's the median assessed value, because the taxes are based on the assessed value, not on the actual sale
Not on the
value
fair
of the
market
house.
value.
Okay.
That's why it really hasn't changed, because we don't get reassessed.
Yeah.
Unless you put a pool in your backyard, you might have a reassessment or something like that, but.
New construction.
No, new construction, that kind of stuff, but that's such a nominal difference. You will see a very little movement on your AV over the years that you've been here, so.
Great. Any other questions?
Thanks once again, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, now into the partial property tax exemption for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers.
So,
Chris?
yep,
or
thanks.
Greg?
So Chris will start this a little bit. So this is a tax exemption that we've been partnering with the town a little bit, as the town brought that up forward, and so Chris, we turn this one over. The district has approved other such exemptions for veterans of war and things like that, so this is our next one. So Chris?
Yep, yeah, we did a veterans exemption about a decade ago, and then we also did an exemption for a disability exemption in the last couple of years. So this exemption is one that the town does currently offer, and there was a law that was passed, or an amendment to the law recently, so more districts in the area have started to offer this exemption as well. So we wanted to bring it forward. The exemption offers up to a 10% reduction in assessed values. These are for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers that live in Somers. They did adjust and again, the district has the option to we can go up to the 10%. We can do 2%. We can do 5%. We have the option to do whatever we would see fit. And then they must volunteer. It used to be 5 years. They've reduced it now down. You can have it all the way down to 2 years. Again, we can still say 5 years if that's what we wanted. And then there's a few other kind of lifetime exemptions if they volunteered for over 20 years, or also if they were. And then an exemption for an unmarried spouse if the volunteer firefighter ambulance worker was killed in the line of duty, or if the person served for at least 20 years. Again, the town does, they did an amendment to their exemption maybe this past summer or this past fall. So the town does currently offer that 10% reduction, and they did reduce the service time down from 5 years to 2 years. And then just based on some of the conversations I had with the town, you're looking at an additional, if we put in the exemption as is for this school year that we just had, we'd be looking at an increase on the average tax increase would be about $7.67 for the community. And again, that's based, like I said, it's based on that average assessment of $70,000 that the town does typically use too, so that's why we use that.
That was an annual increase or monthly?
That was an annual increase of $7.67.
Mm-hmm.
So that's with the way the law is currently written, with now the revisions or the revised that the town did, where they dropped it down from 5 years to 2 years of volunteer service. There could be a few more people that now might qualify for the exemption. So even just based on some of the estimates from the town, it would be looking at, say for this year, it'd be like an $11.40 increase, annual increase.
Okay.
So,
$1 a month?
yep.
Works.
So we're just discussing it tonight, and then we'd also, if the board wants to move forward with this, we'd have to have a public hearing, which we'd look to do on April 9th, and then if we're going to adopt anything, we would also do it at that meeting. We can do it at the same meeting. We open the public hearing, and then go through that, and then close it, and then the board can take action if they were looking to move forward. If we do move forward with this, we would have to do it by May 1st, and if we did it by May 1st, then it would take effect for the 25-26 school taxes. So it wouldn't be impacting the 24-25 school taxes. It would be the following year.
So you don't have to redo the budget because
We
of
will not be redoing the budget because of this one. If the board did not do it at this time and then did it, in the summer or anything like that, then it would just push it off. It would push it back another year. So in order to hit that for that 25-26 school year, we need to get it approved by May 1st. So that's why we'd look to have it at that April 9th board meeting the same night as the public hearing.
That's a good idea. And can we make sure that we publicize sort of that public hearing? Because it seems like it's a great way to, they do so much for us, the volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers. But given that if they pay less, everybody else pays a little more, it seems like it makes sense to make sure that we're hearing from the community and making sure that the community overall supports the decision if we're going to go ahead with it.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're
I
very
would
fortunate that our volunteer fire and emergency personnel can cover us still, even with all the growth in our town. And then when we get to that point of discussion, I think it'd be great to have just the numbers laid out on what the effect is.
Yep.
So we have
But
to
tonight,
decide.
we're just approving, voting to approve moving forward with discussing it.
Yeah, if there was no interest,
taking a
then
vote.
we don't have to have
Not
a
even
public
taking a vote.
Yeah.
Just-
There's no
okay.
vote, yeah.
Got it.
I think we're gonna,
And then after the public hearing, we have to decide whether we're going to give what amount between 2 and 10%?
Yeah, up to 10%.
Up to 10%,
Yep.
okay.
Thank you.
great. All right, now we move on to committee and liaison reports. Heidi, I think you have some policy updates.
I have a few. Okay.
You're,
Yeah, I have, so policy, not too much. We have a couple policies coming up on the agenda further down. So when we met, this month, we reviewed a couple of policies for our first read. Some of those are included on the agenda tonight. The changes are all reflective of current practices or changes in the state law, and that's all noted on what you were able to review when you looked at them. Or the ones that are removal, that's noted on there, the reasons why too. Generally, they were unnecessary or duplicated somewhere else. And then there was one policy that was affected by a recent court decision, so we'll be looking at that one later on once we find out the results of that, so that we make sure that it's accurate. And then I also didn't know if we need to review any of the policies on like board communication with the community in terms of when there's like public groups that are interested in having Board of Ed members to represent or come and speak. We have policies that kind of speak a little bit to that, but not on that. So I don't know if that's something for communications or something you want us to look into a policy for. Maybe go to communications committee first, and then if we need to look at policies.
yeah, I think, let's ask the communication committee to take a look at that and see if there needs to be a policy on it, but kind of what the ground rules should be, if any.
Okay, all right. Because I know we have like the policy stipulates the board president is the go-to person for media, but not necessarily for if an organization wants somebody from the Board of Ed to come and speak, exactly how we work that, so.
Yeah, it's a balance. So I think who's heading the communication? You're dumb. So take a look at it. I mean, there's a balance between that and, freedom of speech piece of it, but just take a look at it, see if there's anything that we should be saying, should not be saying, or communicating to the board beforehand, just so everyone's aware of it. Yeah, if you could take a look at that with the rest of the committee.
Okay, and then I also have a West Putt report. I had Board of Directors meeting. Some of the takeaways from that were as we're talking about our budget, there were several districts in the county that are looking at having to put forth a budget this year with a tax cap override, so I'm glad we're not in that position. The updates for the fact and figures that they put out that has information about all the districts in the area, the new one has been released. So if you go to the WPSBA School Board .org website, you can find the new facts and figures there. June 3rd, there's an end of the year annual event coming up. I'm going to tell more about that in a minute. Some of the there were some different concerns that were raised, things that we've mostly talked about already. Let's see, I went to the Public Process in Developing Curriculum webinar, or participated in that. I emailed the link to the slides, and then Nick corrected the link to the slides because the one I sent didn't work. So thank you for doing that, Nick. So take time to look at those slides and some of the notes that I shared out from that. If you have any questions, obviously, like the slides give a little bit of the information. A lot of it was the talking and sharing, but it was 3 school districts. It was Rye City and Pleasantville and Croton Harmon sharing some different processes that they went through in terms of curriculum. So it was very interesting hearing that and seeing the similarities in how we approach it, seeing some of the differences, different challenges. A lot of reinforcing that it's similar kind of across all the districts, district-wide approaches to solving different problems that come up. Some upcoming events. April 15th, there's a community conversation for board members about civics. So this is an opportunity. Any board member can sign up for it. It's free. It's online, so it's on Zoom, so you can do it from home. It's at 7 o'clock at night, so it's after work. Civics is a new topic. I don't think they've covered that one yet. So I'm planning to go, but as many board members as want to can participate in that. And it just has, representatives from different districts, and they kind of take you through some different talking points. May 1st and 3rd is the Educational Law Essentials this year. I think Amanda did that last year. And you had a lot of information that came from that.
I think you guys are all ready to kill me.
Yeah, and that's
my notes.
Yeah, and there is a charge associated with that, so Nancy would have to sign you up for that one.
Okay.
But I know there was some worthwhile information that came from that. And then June 3rd is the annual meeting and end of year dinner. And just knowing they're trying to really get attendance back up from that, because it's a great opportunity for school boards to network together. It's voting on the West Putt School Board Association budget and things like that at the end of the year. So take a look at that. It would be a great thing for a number of our board members to go to. Some boards have their entire board go and their superintendent. It's on a Monday night this year, so it might not conflict as much. In the past couple of years, it would conflicted with our sports awards night at the high school. And there's also, for anybody that's considering running for Board of Education, they have a prospective board member workshop on April 18th. And that is free and on Zoom. And that's it.
Thank you.
I have a CWAC committee meeting update. We had a meeting in between meetings, I think. In any event, the social emotional interventionist came that works now at the middle school. She's the new hire this year, and she went over the pilot mentoring program that she started with at SMS. So 8th graders are paired with 6th graders, not one-on-one, but overall. And they were accepted into the program, and they were trained to be mentors to the 6th graders. And they meet during their lock-win lunch periods to meet up. And the students actually also shared their experiences with us and how they were able to help the 6th graders adjust and have a sense of belonging into the school as they come up from SIS. And also how much, what I found so great was how much the program meant to them and helped them to be better like listeners, leaders, and people. So that was an exciting update. And also I attended that webinar on state aid foundation and formulas, and it was, a lot of the stuff that Chris has already been telling us now tonight about how things are reimbursed and things like that, but also they confirmed that there is no chance at all that we are going to have a budget by April 1st from the state. So we're going to be in that same position as we were last year. But all in all, it was an interesting way to go over how the formulas work and how they're trying to change the state aid formula, but how they did it wasn't really conducive to helping many districts. Some districts had a windfall, some districts had a huge shortfall, and also how to maximizing building aid when you're doing projects, which I know we're always working on too. We talk about that a lot with Citizens Finance and our capital, upcoming capital expenditure projects. So all in all, interesting webinar.
Great. Nothing new from comms from last time, except just mark down on April 30th, the first annual belonging event. I think still on schedule. And I think we got one more meeting before the end of the year for comms, but that's the only thing right now.
Great. So I did go to the men's committee up at Heritage Hills. I was able to talk there. So it was part of the communication thing. One of the things that did come up, people keep asking about, Q&A session at the board meeting. I will still push back that that's a very hard thing to do in a business meeting. We've been partnering up, and I think we talked about this in the beginning of the year with the communication committee, infographic up here or something, I don't know, but just to try to get information out as far as those different communication streams where the board members have been going to, and I know we have the proper administration at those different events. I know the high school had a, meet the high school principals that was underwhelmingly unattended. I think we had more high school principals there than we did have parents from the community. Thank you, principals, for showing up to that, but unfortunately nobody came. But those are perfect opportunities to have back and forth conversations to understand some of the curriculum, whether there's questions about IB or whatever it might be. And then often we do have board members that go to that as well, but that's a great input into the board and the administration to not only learn more, but provide any kind of feedback there.
I attended the last Primrose one. That was with the principal's coffee. So, and only 2 or 3 parents showed up.
But those are our sources to have those conversations there, and for more people to attend that. That's where we're trying to get that input from. So that would be great. But yeah, if we could try to figure out, Dom, how to communicate that out more to the community, that those are great avenues to have that dialogue. That's it on committees and liaison reports. Onto the financial report. Acceptance of warrant reports, statements, revenues, and treasury reports. Do we have to do anything on that, or just?
Those are just accepted.
That's it, right? Yeah. All right, approval of meeting minutes. Let it be resolved, the Board of Education, having received copies of the minutes of the meetings for 2/27 and 3/12/24, hereby approves the same.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, objections? Personnel consent agenda. Let it be resolved, the Board of Education, upon recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, hereby approves the attached personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, objection? CSE, CPSE meeting recommendations. Let it be resolved, the Board of Education have received copies of the recommendations of the meetings as listed on the attached memo, hereby approves the same.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, objections? Business consent agenda. Let it be resolved, the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby approves the attached business agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Was just one item. We did receive a donation for the James J. Farina Memorial Scholarship this past month. It was a $10,000 donation, bringing the total donations for that scholarship up just shy of $100,000 over the last few years since the passing of James.
Nice.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, objections? All right. Athletic mergers. Let it be resolved upon recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, Board of Education of Somer Central School District does hereby approve the team mergers listed below in the 2025 season as per the merger applications. Varsity modified ice hockey with Somers Brewsters North Salem, girls varsity swim, Somers in Yorktown, boys varsity swim, Somers Yorktown, girls varsity gymnastics, Somers, Hen Hud, John Jay Cross River, Ossining, Pauling, and Yorktown.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, objections? All right, naming of the facilities. Whereas former football coach and Dean of Students Tony DiMatteo served the district from 1999 to 2021, having had a positive impact on the lives of many students, giving and supporting them. And whereas Tony DiMatteo led the Somers High School varsity football team to 10 league titles, 5 section titles, 1 regional title, and 1 state championship. And whereas Tony DiMatteo has been nominated as Section 1 Coach of the Year in 2012, 2016, New York State Coach of the Year in 2016, plus has received the Power of Influence National Award as a high school football coach. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in appreciation of Tony DiMatteo's dutiful and dedicated service to our students and his colleagues and the school community, the Board of Education hereby names the Somers High School Turf 1 field the Tony DiMatteo Turf, and directs that signage be appropriately placed at the Somers High School Turf 1 location consistent with this dedication.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Just as we go, I'll just let you know, I'll be working with the athletic director, Mr. Haddam, as well as our booster team at the high school. And the anticipation is to have an event in September, one of the first games, to celebrate the naming of the field after a coach. And so we'll have a little bit more details later, but this gives us a chance to get that whole process started. So thank you very much, Board.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Stand objections? No. All right, policies for first reading. It resolved that upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of Somers Central School District does hereby accept the following revised policy for first reading. 2410, Formulation, Policy, Development, Adoption, Implementation, and Review. 5605, Voter Registration for Students. And 9260 for Conditional Appointment and Emergency Conditional Appointment.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments?
I think the comments were all in there on the reasoning behind the changes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, objections? Policies for second reading and adoption. I think the public agenda has been changed, but 4321 has been removed in the most recent version due to the, as Heidi stated, due to a recent court ruling. But let it be resolved that the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education, the Somers Central School District does hereby accept the following policies for reading and adoption.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstained, objections? All right. Policy removal. It be resolved that upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education, Somers Central School District does hereby accept the following policies for removal. Board member comp and expenses and exchange teaching.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, objections? All right, now we move on to public comment. All right. All speakers will promptly identify themselves, a maximum of 30-minute period, limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers may comment on matters of public interest involving school operations and programs, but may not criticize or personally attack any individual connected with the school district. No district employees or students may be commented upon, identified by name or situation. Questions asked by the public will be referred to the appropriate staff member for reply at a later date and time. Questions requiring investigations will be referred to the superintendent for consideration and a later response. All written statements shall be given to the district clerk.
Good evening, Board of Education members, staff from Somers Central School District, and my fellow community members. My name is Dan Cross. I have 2 children in the district, one in SIS and one in the middle school. I've been a resident of Somers for 13 years. In 2019, we sold our house and we looked at moving more down county to be closer to work for me. But the fact of the matter is we set roots here in Somers. We love the community, the people, the sports, and most importantly, the schools. This is my second board meeting that I've attended. Shame on me for not coming earlier. But what I've seen from the first one and this one is a little upsetting to me. The dais is made up of elected officials. That means you ran for the position. You saw something or felt an act of service to better your community and wanted to be the difference. So while you sit up there and listen to us speak, your constituents, you may feel like you're getting beat up or berated by the people. I want you to know that we are not trying to make you feel that way. In fact, we're the very people who voted you into those seats. So we believe in your abilities to make the best decision for our children. It seems that there's a lot of back and forth, when there should be a lot of listening, people raising issues multiple times because they're concerned for their children's well-being. We entrust this district with our children. They do a fantastic job. But we aren't finding things out from our district, and instead on social media, as a parent, that's concerning. And there's a few things that I've noticed that I've heard from prior people before coming to meetings, and then things that I heard at last week's meeting when I attended it. I believe there should be a more open line of communication. How can we obtain this? We outsource things to all these different people. We're getting emails hours after events happen. Then we find things out on social media before we get notification from the schools. My concern from the last session was that emails are given to you guys to be utilized, and there's some people who don't even check them. I myself have a work email that if I don't check, there are repercussions for it. There's a reason that we give these emails out, or you're given these emails, is because certain things might be private that you don't want to send to a Gmail or, someone's personal email, getting them mixed in. Another thing that you guys spoke about, and honestly, we keep hearing about COVID numbers. Information from school before COVID, during COVID, after COVID. Why are we still talking about COVID? The only thing COVID taught us is that we can learn virtually. Our children were set back by COVID. We have to stop looking at those numbers. Why aren't we doing what's going on now and what's going on this year against last year's numbers? And then looking at what we're going to do moving forward. We're looking at new curriculums, and we all want it to be successful for our children. But what are the goals?
30 seconds.
We spoke a lot about the IB program. We went to schools. We need to know a little bit more about this. Lastly, we have tremendous teachers and faculty here. Why do we have so many consultants? Is there not a way to have focus groups for our teachers in the district who are some of the best in the state to find what's working for our students? Because after all, who knows our students better than them? Thank you for your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll go to board member comments.
I just want to congratulate all the athletes that came out tonight. They did an amazing job throughout their seasons, and to all the coaches, great job again.
I got the chance to go to the science fair this past weekend. Pretty impressive how they had between filling up the high school gym, middle school gym, and 2 floors at a high school. And I think we got about, I think you said like 15 kids, 15 students received awards and recognition from it.
Out of 20, yeah. Out of 20 from Somers.
20 from Somers.
75%.
So, no, it was a pretty impressive event. It was the first time I ever got a chance to go there. And also, unfortunately, I missed the play that went on last weekend, but I want to just give them the recognition. I heard good things about it, and they did a great job.
Yeah, I'll start just echoing the same things. I mean, our student athletes, always impressive. There's a lot that goes into being a student. There's a lot of dedication time goes into being an athlete. When you find success balancing that, that really makes us all proud. It points to a bright future for those kids. So that's terrific. One thing I'll note about WESF, the science fair that we had here, It is the largest regional science competition in the country. Really a big deal to have, and to have it again at our school is really terrific. So kudos to that whole group and the whole team that arranges that, puts that on. There's a lot of volunteers, students, community members. It's really a great event. And I know there's more. That's all part of the science research program that we have in our high school, which is generally a 3-year commitment for students that are in that. And there's more competitions that they are involved in, qualify for. And it's really just terrific thing that we have here in our district, so I appreciate that. I want to just say a little bit, as a board trustee, what we do here, and we do. One of the prime roles that I guess I always see for us, and I think in all the documentation when you join a board of education, is listening, and hearing what people have to say, trying to understand what their concerns are, and then guiding them. I will say one thing. Board of Education members, we are not the answers. We don't have, in general, we don't have the answers. That's the district, the experts that we have here. We work closely with them to understand what's going on, and I think the trust that's required in that relationship is really critical. And so I will proudly say I've always trusted our district to be honest and straightforward with us when we're looking for information. And it's a journey sometimes trying to figure out maybe what's being asked. That's our responsibility up here, to try to understand when there's concerns, what those are, and how to guide people to where to get answers. I will ask also for the it's important to speak up. If you have questions, you want to get more information, understand things better. There's no way to do it just expecting it to be given to you. Sometimes you have to step out and find out, where do I find out this information? I ask of people, this goes for us as board members, to always have an open mind, to, when we ask questions and look for information, to have that be an honest inquiry where we're really trying to understand. I think the same is when there are concerns from the community. Make sure that when you're bringing them up, it's hard sometimes, but sometimes there's an effort that has to be made. Find out where you get this information. Have an open mind going in so that you're honestly trying to find an answer to this. And oftentimes, being on the board, I see there's a balance of the view that we need to have. And that's partly why we don't have the back and forth here, because a lot more information that comes into it. We don't have all of those answers. And so it's not fruitful to try to sort that out. But I know that the district has always, from what I've seen, been open to people coming in with their questions, providing the data, providing what the process is that the district is going through. So I always thank the district. I thank the administration. Obviously, we always thank our teachers. They have that direct contact and responsibility with our students, which we care so much about. And I'm always blown away at what they're able to do and what they have to balance. But that's why they're professionals, and that's why I'm a Board of Education member. I will say I don't do a lot on social media, but I know it acts quickly. Always a caution. We know it with our kids. We have to know it with ourselves. You have to think critically. Make sure that what's there isn't just sensationalism, reactionary. If there's questions and concerns, take the proper route to find the answers. I love talking about our district. If I'm out anywhere, I love talking to people about it. Sometimes people contact me, and I love doing that. I learn from the questions that are being asked, and I always hope that I can provide that guidance on, what to be thinking about and where to go to find those answers. So I just want to give that a little bit of that perspective. We do need more Board of Education members. I think those are qualities that are really important. Come onto the board, have an open mind, honest inquiry, and I think those are some of the key qualities to really represent fairly the entire community. So that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
I'll try to be shorter.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you captured a lot of what I needed, what everybody said, so that's great. Yeah, same thing. I want to congratulate our athletes. I think that's one of our strong suits and something we stand out for in Somers is our athletic program, and it's always great to hear those acknowledgments. So congratulations to those teams and those athletes that were recognized tonight. And our science research students too. That's amazing to have had 75% of our kids that participated in the WESF get awards and recognition. I know they work really hard, and when I went last year, what was presented, it just blew my mind. Things that I couldn't comprehend that these students are doing. So it's great. And then the primary years. Thank you, Amanda and Pat, for being on that committee and making those visits and taking that time. It was great, and thank you, Ms. Turner, for the explanations. I think it's nice to know, it's really great to get that presentation and be able to see the whole process that we go through, how many people are involved in the feasibility study, that transparency of knowing it's not just a decision that's made unilaterally, but it's a very collaborative approach. And I think it seems like it makes a lot of sense to have seen what the benefits are, find out what all the questions are, focus on those things that we've already got underway right now, because I know it's a big lift for teachers when they're working on the changes to literacy and potentially and exploring math. Like there's a lot there. So it seems like that affords a great time to get those answers and continue to explore it and watch. We can also then observe other districts. I know I think there's one other district in Westchester that's expanding to the primary years program, so we'll be able to sort of observe that too and see some comparisons there. So thank you for that. I'll be interested to see how that unfolds. And thank you always to the community for sharing comments. I know last time, just when I was writing, I was paying attention. I know sometimes I've heard it a couple different times over the years that if we're looking down, we're not paying attention or writing. I'm a much better visual processor than auditory. So if I'm writing something down while I'm listening, that's me paying attention because I'm going to remember it better. And also then I have a quick note that I can look back at. So if you ever see me writing and you're talking, I'm paying attention, I promise. But it's great to hear the feedback and great points that always come up and to hear from people. The biggest thing that one of my big takeaways whenever I listen is the importance of going to the schools, because a lot of the information and concerns that come here and questions that come up and that go to social media too are things that are best answered by the building administrators and the teachers. And I know everybody's really busy and everybody's overscheduled and we get way too many emails, but checking those calendars and making sure, because when my kids were in school, that coffee with the principal was a great thing. When my kids were transitioning to high school, you get that one-on-one opportunity to ask questions and hear things, and the things that you might have heard rumors about kind of get answers. So there's so many opportunities that our school buildings do offer to ask all these questions about programs and concerns. So that's a great place to take those. Obviously, if you've worked through that hierarchy of talking to teachers, talking to administrators, talking to the superintendent, and you're still not getting the answers you want, then that's a great time for the board to really consider what do we need to look at and do. But it always works through those channels first. And my name was up there as one of the ones that's up for my term is over this year. And after 6 years, I am not planning to run again. It's been rewarding experience being on the board for 6 years. I have learned so much. I've gained a lot from the professionals in our district and the community members, and made some great connections. And we've been through ups and downs, and there've been celebrations, and there've been really tough spots. A big time commitment, but totally worth it. But I think it's time for somebody else to have the opportunity. So if anybody, I'm perfectly happy to talk about my board experience if anybody's considering running for Board of Education and would like to talk more about it. It's a great way, if you're passionate about the school district, whether and want to be a part of that, and guiding it forward. It's a great role, great opportunity. That's it.
All right, I'm also going to say congratulations to the athletes again. Amazing accomplishments for everyone. I'm also going to say congratulations to the science research program. The science fair was a huge success, and all the students were so impressive. And it's amazing that 15 out of 20 students got awards that were Somers students. And it's even more amazing that 2 of our Somers students actually received the grand prize and are moving on in the process and going to, I believe, LA, if I'm not mistaken.
ISEF, it's called.
And also a huge congratulations to our Destination Imagination teams. I saw that they also competed and moved on in the process, which is awesome. And I wanted to give a congratulations also to the cast of the Aladdin Junior play at SMS. I had the pleasure of attending this past weekend, and everyone did a fantastic job. But I've also been reflecting on comments that were made at the last board meeting, and it made me think of information that was put out in the fall from the New York State Board of Regents. And they produced a New York State portrait of a college career and civic ready graduate. And these are the changes that they're looking to make. And this portrait included the following traits: critical thinker, innovative problem solver, literate across content areas, cultural competence, social emotional competence, effective communicator, and global citizen. And if these concepts sound familiar, it's because this is the direction our school district has been going in for quite some time. And as part of our district's mission, vision, and values that were developed some years ago and reviewed year to year. And I don't know why it should be considered a bad thing for children to learn that they're one piece in a great big world, and it's also part of our curriculum. To be clear, our teachers and administrators are always reviewing data and pivoting and scaffolding to make sure every child's needs are met. You might not see it. It's all done a lot behind the scenes. It's not going to be at a board meeting, but they do present to us data. And I understand that sometimes pace seems glacial and that changes and initiatives don't happen overnight, at least the ones that are worth implementing. So based on the data and the learning, the Learning Office began a 2-year partnership with PLC Associates for this K-8 literacy professional learning project. And the goal is to train our teachers and implement tiered instruction based on the science of reading. This is the first year of the partnership, and throughout this year, the board, as well as the public, have been updated on the progress of this partnership throughout the year at our different board meetings. The first year focuses on Tier 1 curriculum and instruction, and the second year will focus on Tier 2 and Tier 3. For those of you who don't know, Tier 1 means instruction for all students, and Tier 2 and 3 would be students requiring more assistance or scaffolding as they learn to read. This professional development investment is a little over $300,000 over the course of 2 years from our budget, much more than we spend on the IB professional development program, by the way. And as we saw in last meeting's presentation, the reading scores have already begun to go up and are approaching or exceeding the end of year target for grades 2, 5, and 8. While the presentation focused on those 3 years, the teachers are looking at the assessments of every grade. I also wanted to point out that this year, the governor has mandated that all schools move towards the science of reading approaches by, I think, 2025. Liz can, okay. How great is it that we are already halfway through this professional development process and implementation phase while many school districts are just beginning their journey. And finally, I think it's also worth noting how wonderful it is that so many pathways are open for our students at the high school to pursue towards graduation and entering the real world. Whether it's an IB diploma, AP classes, IB classes, a mixture of AB and IB classes, Regents classes, honors classes, BOCES classes, there's so many opportunities for kids to choose the best path for them as a learner and to be able to pursue whatever their next steps in life will be. There's so many variables for AP and IB credit, and that there's no guarantee that anything you will receive college credit for the course is taken. So you can't average it out, we can't predict, we can't guarantee. But it can depend on the major, it could depend on the scores received, it could depend on the classes offered at the particular college or university. There's not a hard and fast rule. but it has been presented at many meetings, both BOE and school meetings. The importance is to offer the rigorous coursework to prepare students for college, if that's the path they so choose. So gaining college credit is a definite perk, but certainly not the sole or even primary reason for taking those courses. And I think it should be noted that our school and our teachers are doing a fantastic job. We could always look to improve, and we're always looking to do better, but I think overall we've always been kind of ahead of the curve a little bit, whether it's the science of reading or how we structure our classes. So I just want to make sure that the teachers know that we see it and we're supportive of it.
Well said. Hard to follow that one, but thank you on that one. As of tonight, though, look, I always love when the students come. It's always a fun time to see them and celebrate their accomplishments. The PYP piece of it, thank you, Liz, and to all the other 31 or 30 staff members that went through that. It was great seeing your process and the amount of detail and thoughtfulness that was gone through that to make that assessment, ask why, take a look at what's worked, what hasn't worked. That was great to see details into what that effort was these last couple months doing that. The budget, again, great job on that. I think overall, for everybody, and just balancing that out this year. I think the direct response to some of the questions that we have with the declining enrollment, showing the numbers of how the teachers over the last nearly a decade, how that has gone down, or the FTEs, I should call it, has gone down, where it's gone up, what that overall budget impact, on a rough piece of it has been, because was a big concern or big questions that do come up often from the community. So I think that hopefully that was illustrated well, but I thought I got it. So thank you for that, and everybody. As far as the communication goes, Ray, I don't know if you're ready to answer now, but I know you're doing a lot more road shows and talking to people and having open dialogue back and forth, in addition to being in a lot more of the PTA meetings over this past year and communicating what's going on, and that's been a two-way dialogue, again, in addition to the other events. So these have been those avenues for the communication coming back and feedback, and providing that feedback loop that you've been participating in. So thank you for that, and continuing to do that. I don't know if you have more coming up over the next couple of weeks. I think you're speaking at a couple external events.
Yes.
So
Nancy always gets those coordinated for us every year, so.
yeah. So I don't know if you could if you
Sure.
recall them off the top of your head, but not to put you in a spot.
Yeah.
But you could drop them in. If not, I don't know if they're somewhere on the website.
Yeah, we have a couple over at the Heritage Hills team. We've got 2 meetings come up there pretty soon. Again, we typically go to our PTA organization, as those are very helpful. They advertise that in their own advertising kind of methodology and stuff. So we went earlier in the fall, had conversations specifically around the 2030 Road to Success for our school district, our long-term kind of action plan. Later in the spring, we'll actually be going back to talk about the anticipated future bond project in 2025. So those are pieces. And then incidental drop-ins at PTA meetings and such like that. And then, as I mentioned, some Heritage Hills kind of groups that are coming up around the corner. And then I think Dom already mentioned earlier, but we do have our Belongingness event on the 30th of April. So that'll be an event we've kind of put a placeholder out for hold a date. So that's gone out, and we'll be sending some more information out using the Somers Record to advertise that for folks to come in and have a conversation about creating a sense of belongingness in our schools and in our town, and work with the town officials there as well too to kind of come in, and we're going to join on that one together, hosting that at the middle school here. So lots of opportunities to connect, and like I think everybody said today, again, as many opportunities as our schools provide. Some are Zoom, some are live, some are in person and stuff. So there's not a shortage of chances to get, and I like the way that you described too there, Heidi, is that looking at going to the school first, they frankly have most often the more direct answers, specific to things that know teachers, know the kids, know the structures. So about 99 times out of 100 it's resolved there, and then just the open Q&As are things that we kick out as well too, the coffees and things that the teams do, and even put in something this year just like kind of a coffee and chat tea time that they added this year too as well. So so I'll just, I guess, round us out. Is that me, right? Did you go, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay. So just a couple of things. We mentioned the science affair. Just wanted to note that the 2 students that are going to California, the ISAF piece there, that there are two of 1,800 children over 75 countries that are going to this. So just pause and to think about that, friends. We have two of our Somers kids going to this competition of 75 countries across our world, of only 1,800 children going there. I think that's something pretty to be proud of for sure. And I also wanted to mention Dr. Malia, our science coordinator at the high school of the project here. You know, he was here not too long ago, just does an amazing job for our kids and for our community and things. That is one of the pieces, actually. I know we don't necessarily referencing COVID, but I will that right now. I was able to snag that during the COVID period because where that was before wasn't able to host it. I said, well, Somers would host it as long as we get to keep it. So we get to keep it. It's a pretty amazing event for us to kind of hang up on our plaque there that we get to host the ISAC. We actually were so filled we had to have a video shown to the auditorium because they couldn't get all the people inside the gymnasium there, so that was pretty cool. Other piece I had is I've never been accused of being fast on my feet quick when I played sports, or really certainly not now with a new knee and all that stuff. We will never be as fast as the internet. Or social media. So our teams try very, very quickly to get information out as accurate and as soon as possible, but we will not catch up. So I think, again, reading social media, please call the buildings and check in, and that information is very helpful. The other priority I had too is that Chris and I have been working, and actually Mark Adam, with we have a number of students who have been very interested in, you may have heard of this game, pickleball, and things like that. So the kids are all fired up about it. They got little competitions going and things. So we met with some students. So we actually met with Steve Carroll, who is our director of physical education, you know, kind of the K-12 leader. They're not director, but leader of K-12. And so we're working to look at, we have 6 tennis courts, as we know, coming on board. We hope to break later in April if that goes our way. We anticipate 3 of those tennis courts will then be able to have 6 separate pickleball courts, so you can get 6 separate games going on. So architects are already afoot working on that project. So they do that, and then 3 of those other courts for tennis will stay pretty pristine. Went over the other day with Mark Adam to tennis courts that have both those go on it. If they line it well, it's pretty good. And then again, our kids will be able to use it during the day and hopefully open that up for community use as we do other facilities with the appropriate process there. So just want you to know on that one. And I think that's all I had. I hope everybody has a wonderful break. And if you are celebrating, you know, the Passover and coming up not too far down the road, as well as Easter coming up here, whatever your family might be celebrating. Wish you well. So thank you, board.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. And actually, on your note, you know, hope everybody, administration, teachers, everyone enjoys. Hopefully, gets away in someplace warmer than here. All right. Let it be resolved that the regular meeting of the Board of Education be adjourned.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.